Welcome. Today I'll be sharing my thoughts on Operencia, the Stolen Sun, a super solid first-person dungeon crawler with turn-based combat inspired by Central European folktales. But if this is your first time on my channel, good morning, afternoon, evening, I'm Steven Nonsense and gaming and geek culture is what I do. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back, I appreciate it a lot. I posted a gameplay video of Operencia a few days ago, but that's just because I found it to be so well made from pretty much any point of view that I wanted to make sure I do it justice and show you the game in action. But now let's take a look at the game piece by piece, and we'll start with graphics. The environments are simply beautiful, both from a visual design point of view as well as how they're rendered. You never get the impression that the devs were trying for realistic. Instead, I think they were keeping in tune with their story and setting and made the environments look like more of a fairy tale version of realistic. The idea is the game looks great and it feels the same. They work the magic angle really well from the environmental design standpoint. The first level or map of the game takes place in a magically submerged tower. You'll see water on the ceiling and some areas of the level will be completely submerged. This doesn't mean you can't venture through them, you definitely can, but keep an ear out for what happens when you do, because when you're underwater the music stops. That was a little touch which I enjoyed a lot. More avatar options would have been great, but oh well, it's not a drawback or anything, just something I always pay attention to when it comes to RPGs. The 2D character portraits though are top notch, and I would say the same about the orchestral soundtrack as well as the voice acting. I would have went with some different reads for some of the lines, but it's always nice to hear the characters talk to each other, describing or explaining things that you find in the world, or simply doing some world and character building when they're around the fireplace. The gameplay. Movement is grid-based but pretty smooth. It is a tiny bit awkward in more open areas, but you get used to it quickly, especially since you can always look at the auto minimap to see where you can turn. Now, about the minimap, the game has a normal and a difficult setting, but you can mix and match from 3 pairs of settings, thus allowing for a lot of control of your gameplay experience when it comes to the challenge level. You can limit your saves, activate permadeath, or disable auto mapping completely, and you get to create your own map while playing. You can only rest if you have firewood and find a fireplace. This simplifies the issue of similar games that allow you to rest whenever but will also stop you from doing so if there are enemies nearby. In Operencia, the fireplaces act as sort of checkpoints which you can only activate if you have the required resource, and they are also the only places where you'll be able to save on the difficult settings. Time for the RPG elements. Operencia has the expected amount of RPG features, a simple to grasp stat system, items, spells, abilities, and talent trees which allow for different builds of the same class. There's not that much in terms of decision making or affecting the story, which is a bit of a bummer, but I don't think that was in the scope of the game to begin with. But on the flip side, you have a pretty decent number of characters that you can build a party from, hence you'll be able to customize other parts of your gameplay experience. Throughout your adventure, you'll meet up with a bunch of characters that you can add to your party of 4. Each of them will be a different class with different abilities as well as unique voice acting. As far as your character goes, you have a choice of 3 classes, character creation is straightforward and you can change your mind at any point during the process till you click on the begin adventure button. Let's talk about puzzles. Of course, we can't have a first-person dungeon crawler without some puzzles, and I am happy to report that I have not seen any of the dreaded lever puzzles I hate so much. And by that I mean lever puzzles that have no in-game reason to exist and whose solution always boils down to trial and motherfucking error. But for more of my thoughts on lever puzzles, I invite you to check out my video on the subject called What Else? Fuck Lever Puzzles. Although, full disclosure, I haven't finished the game, so who knows, one of those annoying cunts might have snuck in, but from what I've seen of the game, I strongly doubt that. The maps do tend to feature a fair bit of backtracking because of the puzzles, which is to be expected of a dungeon crawler to a certain degree, but still, it's not a feature that I'm very keen on. However, this game adds one very cool feature to that recipe, which makes backtracking a little bit more worth it. Towards the beginning of the game, you find a shovel. A magic shovel, which tells you if there are any buried treasure chests nearby. Not only that, but it will tell you how far you are from one, so you can go searching for secret chests while backtracking to solve optional puzzles. It's a great incentive for players to do so. Combat. As opposed to Legend of Grimrock and most other modern first-person dungeon crawlers, combat in Operencia is a turn-based affair. When you meet a mob, you go into the combat instance or screen, much like in a JRPG. Even if you see only one creature, odds are you'll be dealing with more, way more. Combat itself is turn-based, but it adds the extra wrinkle of having the enemies arranged in 3 layers of proximity: close, medium, and far. All your character's abilities are more efficient on one layer, except for the AoE ones, which will affect all the layers equally. Now, when the mobs are roaming the area, they can be ambushed if attacked from behind, basically giving you an extra turn to begin with, which is great. However, once you've been noticed by a mob, they will attack you, and even if the map allows for you to hide from their sight and double back to maybe catch them by surprise, well, I found the mobs were smart enough to know this and they were ready for me, so no chances of me ambushing them once they saw me already. I don't know if they have an aggro range or they'll just follow you till they catch you though. My main complaint, if you can call it that, would be that the game seems to be rather linear. Not to say that titles such as Legend of Grimrock or Vaporum aren't the same, they totally are, but those settings seem to be well suited to a linear type experience, while Operencia's world seems to be so much better suited to being a more open world type experience, something more akin to the Might and Magic series of games. I really hope that the developers consider this approach for a potential sequel.